I just can't. Over the years, therapy has helped me cope, understand, and manage trauma, anxiety, and the day-to-day mental health struggles that face us all. With that sense of importance I place on therapy, I wanted to open up these conversations in the hopes that it helps all of you as well. The psychology of it all. The content of this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, or mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you or somebody you know are struggling or in crisis, please reach out to a registered mental health practitioner or contact the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, SADAG, on 0800 567 567. Hello, and welcome back to the psychology of it all, brought to you by Siblings Rivalry with me, Talita Ndima. This is our third episode, and I certainly hope that you guys have enjoyed the rest of the episodes that you've seen already. Please feel free to type any questions that you guys have about that specific episode under it, and we will do our best to answer it. Now, today, we're taking a bit of a short left, just a small one. Nothing that you probably haven't heard before. I know I hadn't heard it before, but we're going to talk about African psychology. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, Aibo, what does that even mean? And when I first heard it, I was also like, what does that mean? But my interest was absolutely piqued by just a concept of us having some kind of psychology before the westernized version that we know of it all. And luckily for me, there's someone in the studio who is going to help us chat through how were we dealing with our mental health before the Western side of things came in to come and help. So please help me welcome Manoko Ratala. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you, Talita. Lovely to be here.
Thanks. So before we get into it, I just want us to get into you and how you got from I'm studying psychology to I'm really also interested in African psychology. So please just take us quickly through your journey as well.
Yeah. So maybe let me start by doing what we should be doing.
Yes.
Acknowledging the time and the space.
Okay.
We greet. I know you would say Molo. I'm Betty.
Okay.
So I would say Tobela.
Tobela, okay.
Tobela means I humble myself to you and those who walk with you.
Okay.
And those that I walk with are here to engage, at almost like an equal level.
Okay.
Where we respect each other and we see each other fully. And that's the beauty of being African.
Okay.
If you think about it, Sawubona, I see you.
I see you.
But
yes.
not just you, everyone that you walk with. I always want to start here because we greet, and often in our westernization and so-called civilization, it's like, hi, how's it?
Yes.
As I pass.
For
no
sure.
acknowledgement of anything.
For sure.
So for me, greetings are important.
Okay.
I'm sure when you go back to Eastern Cape, like I go back to Limpopo, the greeting can take about an hour.
For
Checking in.
Checking in. How are you?
Checking in.
How are the kids?
Checking in.
How's the farm? The crops this year?
That's your psychology couch right there. Because they don't just check in.
Yes.
They would give words of encouragement and all of that. So let's start there. It's important to greet.
For sure.
Coming back to your question, how do I come across this? I'm one of those, I don't know, maybe restless ADHD using Western psychology.
Yes.
People have been through quite a number of careers, studied to become a librarian, and I did work as one.
Okay.
Imagine being in a library, right? And then eventually went into communication science.
Okay.
And I did work even as a government spokesperson,
nice.
In like proper departments, a premier's office, Department of Labor, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then I had also studied industrial psychology, which is more the psychology of work or the behavior of people at work. And our lecturer used to say, when people ask you what type of psychology is this, say it's the madness that people get at work or that they bring to work.
Of course.
So imagine being in that whole spectrum where I'm like, I'm not finding that alignment, that purpose.
Yeah.
And then I met a very beautiful, beautiful African sister. And I say sister because she was a nun.
Okay.
She was also trained and initiated Sangoma.
Okay.
As well as a clinical psychologist.
those three things are never in the same
the
same person.
So
at
and
the
I
same
meet her
time.
at a conference, a psychology conference in Japan. A very African from the Northwest, Sister Leta Musue. She was called. She passed just on the back of COVID. And I think for me that got me thinking. And then, of course, we established out of my curiosity, what do you do? How do all those three things come together? And she actually said to me, no, I actually studied my clinical psychology at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. And my dissertation, my master's dissertation, because you need to get a master's to practice, my master's dissertation was on, The Walking Dead. I was like, what? Clinical psychology dead? So, and then, saw her, got interested, got her number. And then the other day I went to, what's that place on the mountain in Pretoria? There's a monument that was set up for us to remember. Just opposite UNISA.
Okay.
There's a museum there. And then I see Sister Leta talking about, the fact that we don't walk alone.
Okay.
As a psychological concept. And that's where my love for African psychology came through. I got to realize that there are some universities that are already looking at how we treated mental health before. And let's just say the rest is history. Got interested, went to a conference with her in Durban. The first Pan-African Psychology Union conference was held. I don't even remember when that was. And I realized this was actually a thing.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenon, you know. You had people there talking about different modalities of African psychology. And I was like, man, I chose the wrong branch of psychology, And it's been quite a journey for me. I'm busy with my PhD at the moment, of course, with an Afrocentric slant, which says, what did our people that we came from, whose DNA we carry, how did they navigate mental health?
For sure.
So I've given a lot of presentations, papers at conferences, just exploring this concept and understanding. I'd like to believe, Talita, what we already know.
For sure.
Like I said, just a greeting.
For sure.
Is a check-in. Yeah, you don't need to go pay someone.
No, for sure.
I shouldn't be saying that in this economy, but
no. But you know what? As this day was coming, I was thinking to myself, but what the world has always had problems. Therefore, humans have always had to find a way to live in this problematic world successfully, right? And obviously that has had an impact on the mental of wherever you are in the world, whatever your problems are. Maybe our problems weren't the same. And so there has had to then be a way to deal with being a human on the earth, right? And so before we started doing the exchange of living, this is what I'm going to call it. There were people in Africa who were Africans and just doing that. And then I was like, oh, how were we dealing with that? I can't believe I've never thought that way before, right? But now that it's here, I'm like, what is then? Is there a definition for African psychology? Or is it a concept? Is it a definition? Is there something that you can go, African psychology is this?
Yeah, interesting. I think I like the angle at which you come at this thing. So there's a definition, like a World Health Organization definition of mental wellness.
Sure.
Let's call it that.
Yeah.
And maybe to get to a definition of Afrocentric psychology, there are stalwarts who've been writing about African psychology. Actually, what is interesting for me, I'm also a member of the Association of Black Psychologists. They're actually established in 1968 in America.
Okay.
So it's African Americans who felt that they didn't resonate, with Western psychology. I'm talking psychologists.
Yes.
And, in a lot of states in the US, you have to get a PhD to actually,
practice,
be licensed and practice as a psychologist. So I'm talking about people that have studied and have understood that what is in the current literature, in the current theory, does not resonate. It doesn't help. It doesn't align with your DNA. Let's call it that.
Wow.
Right? And they started looking at other modalities. So when they define Afrocentric psychology, it's so holistic.
Okay.
It's beyond just your mind. It's beyond just your thoughts and your cognitive ability. It's actually your spiritual being and the wholeness of it. And for me, what really sits and just sits in my heart and makes me feel that this is a thing is that it talks about our alignment with nature.
Which makes perfect sense.
And think about where we are now. It's actually more expensive to align with nature.
Absolutely.
Just talking about food.
You have to pay for it.
If you're talking organic food, which is natural, which was not made in a lab, it costs more. So when you're talking mental health, you're talking about the disconnect of who we are and how disconnected we are from ourselves at a spiritual level, and also how disconnected we are from nature. And we are. We truly are. You know, I mean, there's all this talk now about plastic in everything that we eat and we drink, and we are becoming plasticized.
100%. We're turning into a plastic. I sometimes feel like I'm one ingredient away from just being a plastic person.
And if that was a measure of how disconnected you are from yourself, what is the state of your mental health, therefore?
100%.
And that is African psychology. Understanding yourself as being whole, but not just whole as an individual, but whole within a system. Because you didn't fall from a tree. Actually, even if you fell from a tree, we would tell it our less as
for
you know.
Sure.
But you it's not an individualistic. It's you are a system within a system. So there's your wholeness and your relationship with others, which becomes very important. So that's the power of it. You know, we talk about family.
Yes.
We talk about nature. How were you nurtured? Where were you born? What are the conditions under which you were conceived even?
Oh, that far.
Were you asked for?
Oh.
Or did you happen?
Oh. And all those things are, you know, very individualistic to like you, right? And then they form eventually the person you become.
Yes.
And it's not just the one thing. It's not just nurture. It's not just nature. It's a whole lot of other things.
Yeah. One of the seminal scholars in African psychology, Mama Mawia Kambon, actually moved out of the US to retire in Ghana because she just needed to reconnect with nature. One of her first presentations that I saw, she was talking about the fractures and fissures. You know, this wholeness that I'm talking about? Think about if you were a product of rape. There's already a fracture in your wholeness. Think about if the circumstances of your mom's pregnancy were not ideal. There's already a fracture. So this circle that we came from, in our holes, in our gaps, and that is a definition of mental health. It's understanding it in that full totality. If in the family, you know, there were misalignments, you know, mom, dad, especially immediate family, nuclear family where you were raised. That's another fracture and a fissure. So mental health is about restoring all of those cracks and those gaps.
Okay. So we're here now, right? We're in 2026. We've moved so far away from, you know, our original place in how we live, in what we eat, in just the societal noise around us. And noise, I mean, could be anything. It could be television, the internet, and all of that. So we've moved like 10,000 steps far away from originally when we were on the soil, eating from the soil. You had your feet on the grass. You were grounded in some way. So right now, what is then the African story with us and mental health? How far removed are we? Is it something that we can still fix, or is it something that is so far removed that we have to now find different ways of fixing our wholeness?
True.
I know that's a hard one. It was even hard for me to say.
It's not even hard.
Yeah.
I think for me is what it requires. I think it requires a U-turn, like a proper U-turn from the direction that we are facing right now. Because where we find ourselves, you know, often I've been pondering, especially now, just looking at the quality of life across the globe for everyone. You know, we can localize it and say it's a pala economy, but actually everyone is taking strain across the globe, even in places where you think, oh, first world, things are better, that things are not, right? And I've been asking myself, if we are this wise, if we claim to have developed further, why is life harder?
How did we get here?
And the reality of the situation is we are on the wrong bus here. We think that bus is taking us somewhere, and it's calculated, wake up, go to school, get a matric exemption, get a good degree, get a job, and all of life is good. But what is it giving us? Right? We are within a system that is not created to nurture mental health.
Firstly,
I said that.
Yeah, no,
it is not. And the more we want to, now if you want to get better, you need to have money. How much does a session on a couch cost? A good psychologist, you're paying anything upwards of 1,000. Who even has money for that in their budget? Even the medical aid cannot afford it. They'll tell you, no, we'll only pay for a few sessions. So what happens to that? So what is it that is not working within the system? And I think for me, it's because it's a hierarchical pyramid-based system.
Okay.
And with the pyramid, there's very little...
Small few people on top.
And the majority of us are there. And our aim is to go up.
All of our aim is to go up.
Absolutely. Christopher Chase Dunn is a sociologist. He calls it an egocentric model.
Absolutely.
It's based on ego.
Absolutely.
The things that you have to do to get to the top of that pyramid take away your peace and your joy and your mental health. And he's recommending what he calls an ecological model, an ecosystem model, where I accept you for who you are, and an ant and an elephant don't compete.
No.
Everyone has its place in the ecosystem.
Yes.
If you don't have bees, you don't get rain, and you need rain for food. That's an ecosystem. Everyone is coming as they are, doing their bit for everyone to thrive and flourish. And there's no competition in an ecosystem. So for me, that's where we need to be looking. Making an about 10 from that egocentric model. What do you have that I don't have? What am I going to say or do to look or sound smarter than you? It's not taking us anywhere.
No.
You cannot, that's why a fruit salad, Bandla, it's not just apples.
Yeah.
It's not just the best apples.
No.
It's a combination of different fruit, bringing in different flavors. So we need an about 10, in terms of the world as it is, because it's not going to give it that way. How many people are going to make it to the top? Is there enough space for people at the top?
Why must there be a top to begin with?
Konala. That's the issue. So for me, to change the trajectory around mental health right now is to allow people to just be who they are, not set up a framework that if you achieve this, therefore you have made it. Success comes in different ways.
Yeah.
How many people do we know that didn't even go through all those, academic hurdles and all of those things, and they've still made it? Because when you are born, and this is where Afrocentric psychology becomes interesting, everyone comes with a purpose. We know that, and we say it loosely, right? And your aim here is to find yourself and literally live up to that purpose and that gift that you came to give in the world. It won't come in one framework.
No, it can't.
It will come in different ways.
For sure.
So how do we make that about 10? That allows people to be
who they are, yeah.
Who they are, show up as they are, and just give them the space. Support in that context would mean, how do I help you thrive without a metric certificate?
For sure.
Because again.
So on that point though, of the pyramid, right? And how it kind of forces you to definitely make your ego more important than other things, than your well-being even. Back in the day, in the African world, let me talk about the South African world anyway. We did have hierarchy, right? We did have a king or a chief at least. And then the people who worked for the chieftaincy were a little bit lower than that. And then it was maybe the people with more cows and all of that were a little bit below that. And then like the rest of us. Was that not a pyramid?
How long ago is that?
I don't know.
It's probably what we read about in history.
Mm-mm.
And who wrote that history? And what narrative were they trying to push? The pyramid narrative. In proper Africa, there was balance. So some thousands of years, and the number escapes me, 2,000, 3,000 years before, BC. We already had out of Egypt, which is on the African continent, the concept of Ma'at. And Ma'at says there are 42 laws of Ma'at, but there are 7 principles of Ma'at. And I might not remember all of them, but they have balance. There's order. There's reciprocity. There's justice. There's truth. Those concepts that all of us know that they would make sense in any community, in any environment. That's how we worked. So that Africa, while they had functional divisions, there is the army, equally respected as the headers, equally respected as, just like the gender conundrum. We've been told that men is above, or men are above women. But in our culture, even to this day, we know it's supposed to be a balance. Everything else was a narrative, to put to light and to bring to life the notion of the pyramid. Africa operates at a very balanced level. We know, we've been watching Shaka Ilembe. Again, it might even be not the original, but there was the concept of, before they went to war, they called the Women Council. Is it okay for us as an army that protects? They would have to give reasons why women should sacrifice their children. And the women could say no. And if the women had said no, there wouldn't be war. So Africa understands balance. It also understands one of those principles is harmony. It's different parts of this whole working together towards a common objective. That's us. That's us.
Yeah.
That's where mental health comes.
Yeah, for sure. Or at least the easing of whatever problem you might have comes in the balance of your community and your society. And what we've done with our communities is we've kind of isolated ourselves away from the structure of being helped. The structure of the structure of I am because you are. And I think that stands at the top of, our laws, if I can put it like that. Whereas, if I am not, then you are not. Right?
Yeah.
And we've completely forgotten that. What effect has that had on us as a people?
Imagine that time Ubuntu is a huge concept, even Ubuntu in leadership. If you go to a lot of these business schools, they're talking about it, right? It's now becoming just an academic theory. But the practice part of it, as you say, we are losing that slowly but surely. We talk about black tax, we talk about this, and that's a system imbalance. And the thing is, every time there is a system imbalance, it will naturally try to correct itself. It will. And the correction comes with even more turmoil. The pyramid is not serving us at all.
Yeah.
We are so frustrated about it, and we are now collecting diagnoses.
Yes,
people even self-diagnosed or, AI diagnose themselves, because I have this condition and I have that condition, but not wanting to understand where does it come from and how difficult it is to literally just sit down as family and just say, Usingabobani. I loved that because I like to look at finer things. I guess that's my psychology mind. We see the unseen and we hear the unheard. The power of that Wakanda movie, where they ask the one guy, Ungubani, and we were laughing at the accent because it was an American accent.
Sure,
Ungubani.
Sure.
And I'm saying Singobani. Because identity is at the core of this. When you say, I'm Talita Ndima, from where?
Yeah, exactly.
How did you arrive here?
Yeah.
You are not just your mom and dad's daughter.
Not at all.
You come from generations upon generations whose aim was continuity, was human thriving, and continuity generally. somebody did something for you to be here.
Sure.
They had to survive all the atrocities of the past for you to be here, only for us to get to this point and individuate. Now you only look out for yourself.
Yeah.
So who's going to come out of you? What continuity is going to come out of you?
Exactly, because all you're doing is watering down your strength, essentially.
Aswazi ukuba well, mentally well.
Aswazi
ukungabi right nje.
Okay, let's unpack then some of the modalities of how do we get better? How do we go back to the thing that speaks to our souls? How do we then? I'm sitting here in 2026 as a woman in her 40s, and I've lived in cities my whole life. I'm, as far as I feel so far removed from, you know, my original Ubuntu Bam, my original person, but I also can't leave here and go live in the bush. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to do that, you know, because I'm here, I'm going to make money and live and all of that stuff. Then how do I then go back to a place where I can self-heal without having to pay somebody 1.5?
You might have to go back to the bush.
Yo! I was afraid you'd say that.
So I'm laughing because we are now talking about silver therapy.
Okay.
Which is, you know, the hottest thing in therapy out in Europe.
What's silver therapy?
Going back into the forest.
Oh.
Recalibrating in nature. Where therapy might even consist of you finding, you know, a tent, a spot, tech-free, next to a flowing river. This is happening in Europe. And that's us. You know, we are always lagging behind and copycats and following. People come here, learn modalities that we use, and then they use them and then we pay for them. Egbeni, all you need to do is to go back to the bush. And what is bush for you? Bush might be going back as Lalin. Yeah? Open space.
Yes.
Abundance in nature.
Yeah.
Flowing rivers. You know, where you can still hear birds. Not these hadidas we hear in Joburg that actually add more stress, because when you are sleeping, it's like, hey, you lalelen, what are you going to eat, right? So for me, it's important to not say, I can't do this.
Okay.
Because that I can't already is a limitation.
Sure.
But let's start at making sure that you understand who you are. You are a divine energy made manifest. Right? You are spirit. Magutwa akaseko umanuku. The spirit departs and goes back to where it came from. And that's what we need to nurture. Understanding where the fractures and fissures are around that spirit, it's the first point of healing.
Okay.
Yeah? And I said it in passing, and I want to say it again because it's important to understand that. Under which conditions were you conceived? I've gone back and I've asked my parents, and they told me what was going on around the time I was conceived.
And how did that help you?
It helped me a lot.
Really?
So I'm a third-born child to my parents. The second-born child had come a year after the first-born. So they literally had two babies for quite a while. But this second-born was very sick. Eventually passed on as a toddler. At the funeral, my mom finds out she's expecting me.
Okay.
Poor woman collapses because, of course, the trauma of just losing a baby and all of that. So I was conceived under stress. Let's put it that way. The stress of a mom taking care of two
small babies. Yeah.
One very sickly.
Yeah.
You know, they tell us, and I can never imagine this. They say she would have worms coming out of all orifices, this little baby. And the baby would just lie there and cry. So, and I'm putting this graphic picture to make you understand the stress that my mom was going through. She's a young mother, came from Limpopo, married, moved to Joburg, a new city. You know, she still has to go to work and come back to this crying baby, conceives another baby, and my dad is saying, and this one better be a boy. Can you understand how this story is plausible? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
There's many cracks in this already.
Eventually, she loses this baby, and only to discover that she's expecting another one.
Yeah. So the first two kids were girls.
Were girls.
Oh.
And I became the tomboy of the family. Everyone knows that.
Fulfilling.
Interesting.
things.
My late dad used to call me my son. Because in his mind, that's it. And I think, and that's the things, those are the things that we take for granted, right? That even that baby that you're expecting can hear the conversation, can sense, can feel. They're getting all of that energy from you. I mean, you are creating this life inside your body. There's no division. It's not like something is just planted there and it will be taken out.
Sure.
You are creating
Sure.
this life. And all of that impacts your spirit, the quality of your spirit, the quality of how you show up, the quality of that purpose that I said all of us bring onto this world. And I know it sounds deep, but I like to use myself as an example.
Sure.
So
you find out all these things.
I had to go back when I started learning about them, and I went back, and I think what surprised me was how easy that conversation was.
Oh.
Despite my parents being, very conventional, we are Christian and these African things, and we actually sat around the lunch table and I was like, I'm studying this is what, and I just want to understand. It was such an interesting, because they were volunteering information. And my dad was like, yeah, I remember, all I wanted was a son. Monna ka bana ba bashimane. That's the only way I'm going to ensure continuity, and it was such a beautiful conversation, understanding the circumstances under which I was conceived. The pregnancy, the quality of the pregnancy. So here's this woman who is living in fear. Will this baby leave?
Because I've just lost one.
I've just lost one. What does that mean about my ability to be a good mother? Right? I'm hearing all of these conversations.
The doubt, you're feeling the doubt. Yes.
And then there's this man who keeps saying to her, and this one better be a boy.
So there's fear there for her.
So we laugh about it at home. I'm the only one whose hair doesn't grow. And I grew up doing namanje nje chisko brush, And for me, I think I decided then, you want a boy? Cool, I'll give you a boy. So I literally became my dad's best friend. Meanwhile, we went to church. I was that daughter that never had dresses. The dress was that one you wear when you go to church and the school uniform. But everything else, I was that girl that had, manghlala, I would sit like boys, and my dad had to come and close my legs and all of that. So you wanted boy, I gave you boy, right? So the quality of that and how I was raised. Oh, and then I also mentioned I love my mom and I know she loves me, but I was that forgotten child. Because even as I was born, we never had I'm not, it's awkward kissing my mom because she never kissed me as a baby. And she said it just like, yeah, because I was afraid. I was afraid to create a bond in case I also lose you. This is in a normal, middle income, semi-professional family in the streets of Soweto. So imagine how many of those permutations of stories are on the spectrum. Some could be better, some could be worse. And all of that shaped what I became. What does Manoko do? Manoko becomes the overachiever, the A student, but they still don't come at Thanksgiving because there's now other children, And what I noticed is that the children that came after me, given the most love. We laugh about it now. My sister, I think she's the only one at home who has a pet name for my mom, my younger sister. She's called my angel. We don't have, we're just Manoko.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but all of those things have an impact. But now you want to be an overachiever. You want to do all of that, and it starts to impact how you show up. You are looking for validation.
Well done. I need a well done.
It's not coming. What will you do to get it? What is it doing to your mental health? What is it doing to how you show up? So I'm grateful for my destiny and how it has aligned that I ended up in psychology.
Yeah.
I got to understand, and with that understanding, I was able to recalibrate and become closer to the best version of myself without all of this. But I'm not blaming anyone.
No.
I'm also realizing that that was my story.
Sure.
The thing is, I sought a resolution. And how many people are seeking a resolution? That mental health starts there. Mental health starts with you saying, I know I can do better. Why am I not able to do better? Be curious. Find out so that you can find these fractures, these fissures, and start to fill those gaps and do it holistically. What I find we do now is that once I find that, then I hate my mom even more. Yeah, you didn't love me.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're creating another level.
For sure, because I'm a victim now of your actions.
And you're a victim everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you believe that about your family circumstance, that's what you're going to take to work.
Of course.
So I'm really saying at a basic level, understand what are the things that have taken away your power, which is your full spiritual presence, and close the gaps. Find out so that you can close the gaps, because that is when you're going to get closer to wellness. And that's why often we find people that really thrived later on in life.
Yeah.
If you listen to their stories, it's people that said, okay, I see, man, I've been, running around in circles here. What is preventing me from going in the direction that I know my spirit knows it should go? And you heal those things with that concept in mind. Whether that healing is going to come from you going back to nature or to the bush or the bundus, whether it's going to make you need to sit down on a couch with someone, it might just be. You just need to understand that you are filling up that circle. You are connecting the dots so that you become whole and you can show up and give the world what you were really meant to give the world.
Tell me about you, though, and then how you go home and you find out these things about the circumstances of how you were conceived and the pregnancy and all of that. And then you go, okay, I now understand the circumstances under which I got here.
Mm-hmm.
Then what do you do? Now that you know the history, then when's in?
Okay. Before then, let me tell you where I was. And this is part of my story. And I own it. I own it wholly, right? Then I get a job and I start working for one of the big FMCG companies. And they were losing quite a lot of people. It was taking a lot to recruit people into the business. And anyway, long story short, they take us to psychologists and to people who do a process called the journey, almost like going into your emotional trauma.
Okay.
Semi-hypnosis, going into your emotional trauma and unpacking it. What I know is that growing up, the impact of my spirit, being lost at all of those events that I've mentioned, then I decided I don't want to get married and I don't want to have children. You? Okay. Then before I got married.
Wait, why did you make this decision?
Why would I get married? If people now, they want boys and they want this and I'm not loved. I'm a baby that's just left there to cry. There's no mother, child bond. It's not healthy enough. So I don't want to have all of that. I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through.
Okay.
And I just grew up with that I don't want a husband, don't want anything. But life happens. I didn't even get pregnant before. I didn't even get married because I was pregnant, but I got married at 22.
Oh, that was early.
That was very early, but my life is interesting. Matriculated at 16, graduated at 19, had older friends. After, what do you do 2 years after graduating? I'm working, I've got my own little flat in Joburg. It's the most natural thing to do. And I think because I had older friends, all my friends were getting married at the time. It's only now that I'm like, what was that all about? But I get married nonetheless. Yeah. And in that marriage, 2 years later, actually before I even fell pregnant, abnormal cells were picked up in my uterus.
Okay.
Okay. And I remember they were saying the mouth of your uterus has abnormal cancer cells. I'm 23 at the time, right? Never had a child.
Yeah.
They cut off that part that was affected because it was like actually bad. And I'm told, you now have like, your uterus closes like this, but now yours is a little bit lopsided. I fall pregnant. I remember they had to do something called a Shirotka stitch and I carry this baby and the baby eventually comes. Not long after that, I start getting, bouts of cysts and literally, I'm not even lying to you, every quarter of the year, I was having cysts removed in a hospital. And I was starting to develop black fluid in my ovaries. And I remember they cut off the one ovary and they closed off the others, like, oh, let's wait because we don't know what this is. I was having my tests at the Donald Gordon Hospital. There was my gynecologist, there was a guy from Germany. He ran tests, took the fluid all over everybody. He even sent it to Germany. And they were like,
we don't know what this is.
We don't know what this is. Long story short, this develops into cancer, into cervical cancer. At about, early 30s, I was even stage 4 cervical cancer. And it had to be taken away. And I needed to understand what that phenomenon was. What was that all about? Everyone else in my family is healthy, and I've always just been the sickly child. But what I found at this journey process was the effect of the decisions I took as a fetus in terms of my experiences being in my mom's womb. Remember, I had decided I don't want children. So the minute I got married, my body said, you said you don't want children.
You don't want this.
We are going to help you not to have children.
Oh.
Yeah, but yeah, we are going to give you some sort of condition. We are doing what you wanted. They say from your lips, whatever you say manifests, right? And that is my understanding of my condition and where my condition came from. Because as soon as I understood that, it disappeared completely.
No.
I am telling you. As soon as I understood that, I took decisions to be in the space based on how I was conceived, the conditions under which I was conceived and raised. I had taken decisions that are killing me.
Yeah.
I'd rather not be here because then I'm not going to do what I needed to do.
Yes, because your body was fighting your mind.
Yes.
Because you'd made a decision in your mind, asizuyenza lento. And your mind goes, Jens, asiyenzi lento. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this thing might happen. Then your body goes, no, remember, we're not doing it. Let's do everything to fight lento from happening.
That was one healing modality that helped me to unpack all of that, because they when you sit in a chair, they help you go through your body, and your body talks back to you and shows you what we've had to do to keep you alive. You said you don't want a child. We also want to keep you alive. We're not going to give you a child. But then it comes in a dysfunctional manner, right? So that was the one thing that I did for myself. But it was also about embracing it. I'm sure I wouldn't be here if I thought, oh, I've got cancer, I'm going to die. I'm sure I would have died. That's how powerful.
Yeah.
But I just had this thing that what's wrong, let's fix it so that I can leave. And I've had quite a number of health challenges, even around the birth of my child. And I remember just making small prayers that, can I be here for the son? And we used to joke about it in the family. And I remember the one time, not long after his birth, I was just bleeding profusely. And they didn't know, like I bled until there was nothing left to give. When I went to the hospital, I remember the doctor saying, if you had stayed another day, you would have just died. Right? And for me, that was one of the spaces that, your body just wants to give up. But I made a prayer that day that, oh God, please, because the baby was small. It was a 1-month-old baby. And I remember saying, God, whatever you do, please can I raise this child? At least help me to see him get to 18. So when my son was turning 18, we were like, okay, God, can we
extend the contract?
Can we extend the contract kind of thing? But that's the power of being spiritual. And I'm intentionally using the word spiritual. Even the decisions that we make are spiritual because it's the wholeness. And whatever you say you need, whatever direction you say you want to take, that's exactly what's going to happen. So for me, healing was understanding that when you are being intentional, be intentional about the right thing. Remember what you came here to do. One of the other modalities I used was I've studied chemetic science. So which is, all of the work that has been done on the pyramids and the notes that are being written in the tombs all over Egypt, which give us how to live life. I think those people knew that there will be this generation that will require this information, and they etched it on stone.
Yeah.
And I did chemetic science, and I remember one of the processes was to find out, which is, of course, an African modality, what is your incarnation objective?
What is that?
To help you remember what you came here to do.
Remember because what you already know.
Because you already know. You didn't just come here. You didn't just arrive. You are not just a product of a love or a relationship between two adults. You came here to do something. You've got a spiritual mission that you came here to do. And mine is to teach.
How do you get to that point where you actually remember it?
And you will know. So the way we do it, and which is something that I'm also trained to do, is we do a reading out of the great oracle of Tehuti. And it's so beautiful that we are doing this. You know, I don't know, it's not a complex, it's an easy, it comes in cycles, like every 28 days, you know, we have a lot of faculties, and those faculties talk to the very purpose that we've come here to do. Can be in the positive and it can be in the negative, depending on what you came to learn. We are currently in the cycle of Tehuti. It's moon cycles. And my incarnation objective is Tehuti, and Tehuti is the teacher. Greek mythologist who, by the way, schooled in Egypt. They came to school in Africa, and they took back a lot of these theories that we are now attributing, or Pythagoras, or Hippocrates. They learnt it in Africa. I'm going to say that, and everybody knows it. They don't want to hear it, but I'm going to say it, that the world, Africa has given to the world more than it believes it is capable of right now. And it's a fact. It's not even a myth. It's not a wish that we have. It's a fact that everybody came to learn in Egypt. The greatest library in the world was in Alexandria in Egypt, and it was burnt down. Why?
Because we were too powerful.
We still have Timbuktu in Mali, the greatest repository of African knowledge and pre-colonial African knowledge. Why is that territory still on fire? Why is it that every time they get a chance, they go out and they ban that knowledge so that you don't remember who you are on a large scale? So I'm personally glad, and I know we're not talking politics, about that you know, that what's happening in Burkina Faso. There's an awakening, a remembering, and the word remembering, remember, putting parts back together. There is a remembering of who we truly are and what. How come no school in the world teaches that history? No school in the world encourages the knowledge of what is in those texts. So coming back to my incarnation objective, it's on the basis of that knowledge. To help you remember, because they already figured it out. And not just in, I feel like umoya uti. No, there's like proper research. They talk about a concept of tepchesep, that they never did anything without testing and retesting and, you know, like proper clinical research. On this continent, we already had that thing. When we say this is your incarnation objective, this is what we have done over the years to come to this. So mine is Tehuti, mine is to teach, and we are talking and doing this within the cycle of Tehuti. So I didn't think it was a coincidence that you called. And there was this connection that destiny has allowed. It's about remembering, and to remember we need teachers. And I think I'm not the only one. I know a number of people whose, you know, incarnation objective is to teach. And to teach, you have to learn. So we read. You must come to my house. You know, when women buy shoes, I buy books. And my obsession now is pre-colonial African notes written by people who understand who we are, who are helping us remember. And my job is to actually, my purpose is to share that knowledge in the simplest possible way.
For sure.
So for me, it's not about becoming, of course, I'm doing my PhD. And I'm doing it for a different reason. My dad said, just do it, just to show that it's possible. I know you are able to do it. So I'm doing it for him more than anything. But teaching, because that's your life purpose. I'm sure you know many Tehutis who did not even finish high school. But they know they are griots, you know, they are repositories of knowledge, and their job is to give it away. So one of the modalities is to find out your incarnation objective and align with it. And what I find is beautiful is that a lot of people, you never quite forget it. Something is going to say, oh yeah, that is why I'm doing this. But once you know what you came here to do, you walk confidently in that direction.
For sure. So as somebody watching out there who's going, I also want to find out my incarnation objective. Where do they start? Where do they go? Is there somewhere you can go? Is there a number you can call? Is there something that you can go, okay, please help me to do this?
I think the best place where a lot of the people that have trained to do, we all trained at the Amen Ra Institute. Look up the Amen Ra Institute, you know, and there are numbers there, and they will connect us or they will connect you with a whole lot of people that are able to do those readings, that have been trained to do those readings. And it's a spiritual process. I think I need to warn people. We have this thing of ifeshin, I want to go get a reading. I want to go to a medium. You sit with the question. You actually ask yourself, why am I even wanting to know what my incarnation objective is? It has to be so real to you because it's an energy reading.
So why is it a warning? Why are you warning that it's a spiritual?
Because people just want to go and find out, that childlike curiosity.
For sure.
You are not doing it because there's a bigger reason behind it. But you must be seeking wholeness. And I think we are not seeking wholeness. We are often just seeking quick answers.
Yes, instant gratification.
Yeah. So if you just go into like, went for this reading, this is what I said, and then tomorrow you've forgotten about it. You are actually creating another fracture and fissure in your wholeness, in your circle, and all of that. So for me, I would like to say that because I've had people that said, I also want a reading. And then I'm like, no, not today. This is what you need to do. And often the readings that I've done for people, everyone leaves there in tears. Not tears of, sadness, but just the joy of that remembering of who you are. Because a lot of it, I've never had somebody that says this doesn't resonate. I've always had people say,
I hear that.
Yeah. I know that. I've always known this, but I've always had this, hunch.
For sure.
Yeah, it's actually such a beautiful thing. So know yourself.
Yeah.
Know where you come from.
Yes.
Fix the wholeness of who you are, how you came, and fix your relationships with immediate others. We had where we came from. So my late father used to say it should be easy to forgive people.
Yeah.
And would say how. And he was a Muruti and everything, and he would quote the 777 times. Forgive per day. Right? Per day. And he would say, of course, there might not be 777 transgressions, but it just emphasizes that forgiveness is actually your medicine. Because if you're not forgiving, you're holding on to something that, and he would use these words, that when that person was doing it, no matter how gruesome it was, that is all they knew at the time. That was them being the best version of themselves on that day. The thing is that best version did not have
a good effect on you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So why are you holding on to it?
Yeah, I read something the other day, just this week, that said forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person.
It has always been.
Yeah.
You actually heal.
Yeah.
That was part of my healing, because understanding that my parents, in the context that I gave earlier, were doing what, they were responding to their immediate environment with all the resources they had at the time. That was the best version on the day. And you just forgive them. And he would say they didn't know, and they didn't know that they didn't know.
Exactly. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
In the forgiveness part, though, where you're saying fix your relationships, do I necessarily have to... Can I forgive in isolation?
You actually can.
Okay. So I don't have to come to you and say, okay, Sisi, listen, this is where I feel like you transgressed me, because sometimes that's not met properly. That person could be like, I will too, or I wasn't trying to hurt you and whatever. And that doesn't leave a nice taste in your mouth as well. But when you say fix your relationships, is it necessary for you to fix your relationship with the person that you have a transgression with?
That's first prize.
Okay.
That's first prize.
Sure.
Having an opportunity to say to somebody, this is what didn't sit well with me, so that they know. And we do that so that they don't do it again.
Sure.
Because forgiving in isolation sometimes means, you stepped on my toe. I'm not going to give you an opportunity to do it again.
Sure.
You are sitting there oblivious to the fact that you actually even stepped on my toe. So for me, that is first prize. First prize is to do that. And how we often do in most African cultures is, if it's actually that bad that you can't, you bring in a mediator.
Sure.
bizo malume no rakgadi.
Sure.
To say, let's sit down, let's have someone, and let's mediate on this issue. You say your part, I say my part, but the aim is that we restore peace and harmony.
Sure.
Right? It has to be spoken about. You cannot not forgive without first attempting to do it first. And then, of course, there are instances where people have passed, people are no longer alive.
And you're still carrying that with you.
You are still carrying that with you. There are also processes and modalities that help you to let go of that. And I did a process with one lady, and I remember it took her a long time to forgive. And eventually she did, probably months. And even today she would tell you forgiving is the hardest thing. But once it is done, the peace that comes with it, what you're doing when you do that, you're restoring your wholeness. Because otherwise, in your circle of wholeness, you are sitting with this thing. By the way, and look it up, this is where cancer comes from.
Holding on to negative things.
Because the thing is,
I can absolutely believe that.
Yeah. When things are happening to you, it's like you feel something, isn't it? If somebody says something that is hurtful, you're going to feel some knot somewhere, in your physiology. And it stays there if it's not resolved.
Of course. Because
it's cell memory. And cells replicate. And if what is an abnormal cell? It's a cell that's sitting with something that's not supposed to be there. And it replicates, and then we say, oh, there was cancer. So part of my process, and I think that's how my cancer healed, was forgiving. Understanding that my parents had to do what they had to do. They didn't know better. They didn't know that they didn't know. And what was beautiful about it, and maybe it's because it's my parents, is they were still able to say, but we love you. And I know they love me. They've never ill-treated me, but there were circumstances that led to my fractures and fissures in my spiritual journey. And I look back and I'm like, of course I had to go through that. Otherwise, what would we be talking about today?
Something completely different.
Yeah, but now I can talk about it from like a first-hand experience.
Yes.
That's the beauty of it. Because when you forgive, you look back and you say, yeah, I've been through these ups and downs, and here I am now.
So in a world where now psychology is a very Western concept that is taught all over in universities, right? You can go to school and say, "Banfunu fundi psychology," and the version of psychology you will get is definitely a Western version. Are there any universities teaching the African version of psychology?
There are quite a few of them in the US that affiliate to the Association of Black Psychologists.
Okay.
They do. And I want to start there because remember also you're talking to people that were displaced as part of a transatlantic slavery, transgression that has not been fully resolved. That had really wanted to find out who they were and where they came from and their identity. One of the programs at Berkeley in California College is in their 4th year of psychology. They come to Africa for a residency, not with us, psychologists in South Africa.
Yeah.
They either go to Bagamoyo in Tanzania, where you have the biggest collective of African traditional healers. They come to South Africa and they sit with African traditional healers to see how they heal mental illness. Because a lot of them do, right? So you have colleges like that where they emphasize African psychology and they will tell you, we don't study Jung, we don't study Freud. Ukhuluma ngabantu bakhe.
Ukhuluma ngabantu bakhe. Yeah, and we're not all the same.
We can never be. How do we think that something that was meant to heal someone in Europe and whatever, issues they were going through there would heal us? We didn't go through the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
So they are like clinical, like you separate the two. You're going to study chemetic science. You're going to study how, as a people, we have migrated on these continents, how we have similarities more than differentiations, how these borders were not done by us.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And all of that. So I love that element. But back home, there's also a strong movement, UKZN. Like I said, Sister Letta graduated there years ago. They were already doing African psychology. UKZN is so advanced. They in their, the student counseling center in the university.
Yeah.
They did a research years back, and to this day they still have it. They had the traditional, counselors, Western trained psychologists that would counsel students if you're struggling academically and whatever to adjust. And then they had a traditional healer. And students who were struggling academically, some of them preferred to go to the traditional healer. And the statistics after a few years of the students that actually thrived and healed and succeeded in their academic achievements were the students coming from the traditional healer counseling center. Because when you go there, they would say, into yako is simple, Talita. You need to go fix that relationship. Uphi babo wako. Uphi. Because all of those things are what created fractures and fissures in how you show up. And when you're supposed to shine, you can't shine because there's a gap. You are leaking energy somewhere. So the success was actually remains in the student that come from the traditional center. I love, they actually even call their center the Ma'at Center. So the Ma'at I was talking about, they're bringing it back to life. So they do a lot of work in that space. The University of Limpopo, TEFLUOP, also very big on African psychology all the way up to master's level.
Oh, wow.
Theses and dissertations are being written about how we do what we do. I think the other day I was telling you about the bereavement process. That other people after that, we must go to counseling in Dondon. Our own traditional processes have a built-in counseling mechanism. And people are beginning to write about that in a scientific context. Meaning that even if you doubted it, they are saying to you, you've got to believe it. That TEP that I was talking about, that clinical research, evidence-based, from an Afrocentric perspective is there inside that. So UKZN, Sfako Makato University, Medunsa, formerly known as Medunsa, they also have that. So you can, but it's actually still a shame, right? That out of the 16 or so universities that teach psychology,
3 of them.
Only 3. But 3 is better than nothing.
For sure. It can only get better. I know we spoke about it very briefly when I spoke to you on the phone about the when there's bereavement, how the things that we sometimes still do in this age are to help in the grieving of the thing. Can you just go through that quickly as an example to someone who doesn't quite understand what that looks like?
Yeah, so siyashonelwa, you lose a spouse, and the typical example is losing a father of the household. And often in many cultural practices, there's a candle that is lit, right? And that has meaning, and all of us are like, oh, it's witchcraft, it's mambo jumbo, it's whatever. The meaning is they often say that we are illuminating, because in all of the theories that I've studied, whether it's in Islam, even in our own Kemetic science, the belief is that the soul travels for 40 days after it departs the body, to be restored back to the creator or to source.
Okay.
Right? And in that journey, you actually are still milling around somewhere. Somewhere along the way, you are atoning and accounting for your life journey. You had come here to do 1, 2, 3. Where are you? So that candle is to say, we are still here. We are with you on this journey.
Okay.
Because it's often switched off, right? Once they've buried the deceased. And then there's the element of literally sitting mattress, right? Somebody is sitting on the mattress, lowering yourself. I actually just came from a funeral in Zim, and it was the most, sacred space. It was in a rondavel, a beautiful, well-built rondavel. Bahleli pants ogogo, You walked into that room and you would just feel the comfort and the the space that says, yeah, we are here with you, we are here for you, and all of that. But the bereaved sits right on the ground, humbling themselves to this experience. Ekbeni, what do we do? I went to a funeral in one of these fancy estates, and every day the bereaved widow was wearing designer clothes, asking us, so please bring Woolies muffins. At what point are you connecting to this traumatic event that has just happened?
You're not dealing.
You are not dealing. You are not even starting to deal. She was going, inspecting if there's toilet rolls in all of them and showing us how to press her fancy toilet. And I remember thinking, what's going on? Whereas in our culture, you humble
yourself, hlala
phansi, so that you can. And then the beauty, and that's where the counseling piece comes in. Here are people coming in every day. That's what dudu's. And that story of what happened to the deceased. So usually for what, 5-6 days, it is said over and over again until your neurology understands. Because I told you the body is listening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the brain is listening. It is recording. You are sitting there doing absolutely nothing.
And my brain goes, I don't want to hear the story over and over. I'm grieving here.
Uzawuphola njani? That's the beauty. And we are beginning to study all of those concepts. Just understanding that there's absolutely nothing backward, nothing wrong with our African culture. Absolutely. We just need to understand it within a concept. And ask yourself, why were other people that are not African so invested in disconnecting us from that?
Because it was powerful.
It's super powerful.
Yeah.
There's the Witchcrafts Whatever Act. Once we were fully colonized in South Africa, I've forgotten what year it was promulgated. They came in just to disempower and disconnect us from this traditional knowledge. Everything that we do, all of these understandings, most of them were termed witchcraft. It was illegal in South Africa. So all of the people whose life purpose is to come and heal us had to go underground because it was illegal. Why would someone be so invested in doing that? My dad, we used to laugh about that. And then he says those very same people would make it right to show you Harry Potter.
Exactly.
And the School of Witchcraft.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, if we say it in English, it's fine. But if
we need
not...
to wake up. We need to wake up.
Okay. There's a lot that I've heard and absolutely understood in your explanation of what African psychology is. There's obviously a lot more that I have no idea about, but my interest has absolutely been piqued, right? And I think you've given us enough to say, try and at least be one with nature first and foremost, right? Which I think is such a cool thing also because you can do it. You can go and take a hike in the mountains here in Joburg, wherever you
absolutely.
are. You still can have that quiet time with my phone, no music, and just be there, right? And I've done that many times. And I've always wondered, why do I like doing it? Because you just feel revamped somehow. It's not something I can put a finger on as well, but the peace that comes with not being told what to do or programmed or whatever is absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, though, we have run out of time. But I just want to say thank you so much for sharing this part of who you are, firstly, but also this part of the interest that you have in African psychology. I hope that anybody out there who's been listening can also take something out of it and go, because I know people go, oh, I will do psychology, a psychologist. There's lots of resistance there with, especially with Abantu Abamnyama, that we go, I don't know about all that, right? And I'm glad that there's been some kind of alternative. And I hate to call it an alternative because it's the original, right? Yeah. Yes. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the comment section and we'll definitely get the Sis Manoko to come back and answer them, because ultimately she is a teacher, right? Exactly. But also I will put in the description, I'll put in what did you call it? Amenra
Institute.
Yes, the Amenra Institute. So if you're more curious, you can go in there and see what you can find. But I just want to say thank you so much for giving of your time and of fulfilling your purpose too by being here as well. It's a great example of how you found your purpose and you have fulfilled it. Is there anything else that you want to lastly leave on the table first?
True. So my spirit is now fully here.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's always been here. And I've been reminded of another modality that is simple, that all of us can do every day in our house. Dancing. Stomping your feet has an effect on your overall well-being and your mental health. There are friends of mine that have done PhDs in how you heal through dancing and how our dancers,
Ukhenza.
Yes. The Zulu, Kuksina, and all of those things. They are not, the steps have meaning and they are meant to heal different parts of you, as well as drumming, depending on which drum you're drumming and what stage. All of those. There are theories out there, not even, let me say, theses.
Sure.
Doctoral theses that talk to that being modalities of healing as well. So what I'm wanting to say at the end is that healing is within our reach.
Sure.
We just need to be intentional about it, and we just need to remember Basingoban. And once you get into that space, everything else becomes moving parts in your circle of life.
All right. I have a dance party scheduled for tonight. Thank you for joining us, guys. We hope this has illuminated some part of your questions that you needed. And please join us again next time, in 2 weeks' time, as we tackle another psychology. I can't even think anymore. I'm just like, I'm so excited to go and try something. Another topic in psychology. Thanks for joining us. Please join us again next time and we'll see you. Bye.